producer today is Thaddeus Romansky. Thank you, Thaddeus, for joining us. He's over there, but he doesn't have a mic, so he's just going to wave. And okay, thumbs up. And Dennis is also here, so hi, Dennis. Howdy, howdy. He's in the office. And my guest joining us today is Mr. Trey Cashion. Good morning, Trey.
Good morning.
We are going to be talking on the topic of dating in the new millennium during this month of St. Valentine. I want to get his thoughts and opinions on just how Christ may have intended for this dating and courtship relationship process should go. It's very near and dear to my heart. When I was a young mother and my kids got that age, I thought, okay, Lord, what is it your plan? You know, I'm not sure we figured it out yet, but Trey and I are going to discuss it.
I'm sure we haven't. I know we haven't.
Oh, no, I hadn't figured it out. But we have some ideas, right?
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
Have some
things that have helped.
That's right. We'll offer some suggestions, and hopefully also we'll try and break some old habits that I think have been formed over time with our culture. Okay, well, with that, Trey and I have a very full show, so I'm going to go right away. Dennis, unless there's something you'd like to add about what's going on.
No, doing great today.
No, but I have to just for a second and say, I just got back from Bogota, Colombia.
Oh, wow.
It was so cool. Speaking of dating and relationships, my daughter's going to be married right outside of Bogota in a little country town called Chia.
Really?
And it was just such a cool experience. Only boyfriend she's ever had, 15 years old. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Colombia.
He's Colombian and Catholic, and they really wanted to be married there where his mother's family is. She's one of like 15 kids, and I got to meet the family.
Oh, that's great.
That's a nice trip.
It was such a blessing. Got to meet the priest that was a family friend who's going to be working with us, and as they say in Colombia, divino. It was divine. So, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and swing around the parishes so Trey and I can get started because there's a lot going on.
That's good.
Is there anything, Dennis, as far as, a diocesan-wide?
Well, the only thing I can talk about is the men's conference coming up this upcoming Saturday. Thaddeus and I will be doing a live broadcast. I can't tell you the exact time of the live broadcast because we have to do a conference on that here. But we are going to be sponsors, Red Sea Catholic Radio is, of the men's conference. It's Iron Sharpens Iron, and we have Tim Staples and Trent Horn are coming in. It's not too late to get your tickets, men or ladies, as a late Valentine's Day gift, possibly. You can get them at CENTEXCatholic.com. And it's going to be a great conference, an all-day conference at... What did it say? San Jose. I'm going to have to look it up. Yeah. How about you go to the website? We used to have a poster right here in the room, but we don't have it anymore. So, but yeah, it's going to be in Austin. So call me if you want to have if you have any questions, 255-2633, and we'll hook you up with the information.
Excellent.
Or listen to the radio. We do have quite a few spots that are airing regarding the Iron Sharpens Iron Men's Conference.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, here we go. Around the parishes, there's a lot going on. I had to really kind of squish it in because I knew we have a full show today as well. But here we go. Parenting with purpose. I bet Trey knows a little bit about that.
That is going to be moved to sometime later. Actually, that has been changed. It's been postponed.
So let us say to be continued.
Right.
Let's
Yes.
Parenting with Purpose, though, going to be sponsored by CCFM. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But speaking of CCFM, like most nonprofits, Collaborative Catholic Formation Ministries depends on volunteers. Whether this is in or around the office with fundraising or working directly with the youth we minister, we need you, they say. Do you feel called to volunteer with us? Visit our website at apply@www.collaborativecatholics.org. Okay, so that's to volunteer with CCFM. And I want you to mark the date for our next morning of reflection for women, Wednesday, February the 24th. Join us for a mini retreat reflecting on the year of mercy. Light breakfast will be served beginning at 9 a.m. at St. Joseph Pack this time. We will have a speakers and group discussion. I just fresh off the press that Miss Terry Lipscomb will be our speaker that day. So please come and listen and be refreshed in the spirit. If you need babysitting, you can contact Jennifer Pettibon at 979-324-8482. 2. All right. Another thing coming up, which I had such a great pleasure of interviewing Dr. Braden and Kathy from the mission trip. Cool. That's all heated up. So the Guatemala mission trip is going to be the March 12th through 19th. And Dr. Steve and Michelle are going with the medical mission team. Many other people as well. They're expecting to see over 3,000 people this year. The very poorest of the poor up there. And they're still asking for your donations of soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, travel size shampoo would be greatly appreciated. But also funds are greatly needed as well. And you can offer those at both parishes' offices of St. Joseph and St. Thomas Aquinas. I know there in the chapel at St. Thomas Aquinas, there is a box that you can offer your donations for them to take with them. It's a great need, great stories, great opportunity to really serve the poorest of the poor during this year of mercy. So this is a corporal work of mercy, folks. If you would like to, please be a part of that. Checks can be made out to St. Thomas Aquinas with medical mission written in the memo. And they are needed through February the 27th. So there you go. Guatemala. Well, let's swing it over to St. Joseph's School. They're going to have an open house Sunday, March the 6th. St. Joseph Catholic School is hosting an open house at both the elementary and secondary campuses from 11 a.m. to noon. You can come and walk a student schedule, meet teachers and administrators and families, and learn what a Catholic education could do for your family. For more information, go to stjosephschool.org. Okay. Also, this week. The Catholic Charities Luncheon is going to be right here in College Station, Wednesday, February the 17th. So that's tomorrow. Enjoy a complimentary lunch at an unforgettable event in which the mission of Catholic Charities in Central Texas will be shared by those whose lives it has touched. This 5th annual celebration life luncheon is at noon at St. Thomas Aquinas, and it's free to attend. You simply need to contact Allison Seibert at 979-822-9340, extension 114. There you go.
We have the Red Sea has a table there. We're glad to support Catholic Charities, and yes, before you announce it, I will be the MC for this year, which
awesome.
means I basically do the intro and the exit, and that's about it. But I'm very happy to help in any way we can. One thing that I think is really incredible is Catholic Charities has added counseling services. So they've taken over. Essentially, the diocese has given the counseling services and family counseling services to Catholic Charities, and they're really taking off. And so those services have expanded greatly in the Austin area, and they'll be expanding them here as well in the future. So great things are happening with them, and they've easily doubled their size and staff in the last year because of the blessings that have come from all their hard work. So
that's
glad
excellent.
to do the MC work for their benefit, and it's tomorrow, as you mentioned, at noon at St. Thomas Aquinas.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll see you there. The next thing I thought was pretty cool. I saw this, such an important thing to talk about is a faith in politics and citizenship. It's a presentation that's going to be this Thursday, February the 18th. Everyone is invited to join Framework BCS Real Life here at St. Mary's Catholic Center at 7 p.m. in room 201-202. And the former state senator, Steve Ogden, will talk about how he kept his faith while in public office. We need to pray for these folks. This is such a great, strong calling, yet such a difficult one in these day and times. So he will speak about how to choose your politicians for the upcoming election. Oh my goodness, I need to go to that one. And that's my heart. My degree, Trey, I don't know if you know this, was in political science.
Oh no.
So faith and politics and ethics and public policy, that's my. I love that. Oh, I love that. That's other than the parenting stuff,
right.
Of course. Okay. The St. Vincent de Paul Stampede for Need is it's Saturday the 27th, so just a week from Saturday then. The Stampede for Need will be held at Central Park in College Station to benefit the St. Vincent de Paul Society. Your participation in this event helps the Society provide utility and rental assistance to our neighbors in need in the BCS area. Registration is $20 a person before the race, and groups of 4 or more is only $15. On race day, the entry fee will be $25. Registration begins at 8 a.m. Be sure to get your t-shirt and win run prizes. For more information or to pre-register, visit www.aggiecatholic.org/stampede 4need. That's what a great cause. As someone who does follow politics pretty closely, in one of the ways in caring for the poor, I think is the very best is organizations just like St. Vincent de Paul who have in-home visits. They're looking in the eyes of the people who are asking for help. And I believe the local level is just absolutely the best. You have more respect for human dignity.
Absolutely.
And it's your neighbor and helping others. So come out and celebrate Stampede for Need. And you also get some great exercise and family fun time. So good family opportunity as well. Okay, now this one I thought we have to do something from outside the area. This is going to be the Homecoming Festival, the Knights of Columbus Homecoming Festival at the SPJST Hall in Caldwell, Texas. That's going to be March the 6th, beginning at 10:30 a.m. So if you're looking for a nice festival to attend in the coming month, on March 6th at 10:30, they'll be having this over at this SPJST Hall in Caldwell off of Highway 36. Whew, okay. That's it.
There's a lot going on.
There is so much going on. So I want to go ahead, and if we can, if it's not too early, can we go ahead and go to our little break?
I guess we're going to have a longer second segment, so why don't we do that?
Absolutely. That was my plan. So I was kind of getting through it so we can so Trey and I can get in on the points that we're really hoping to today because it's a good topic.
Sounds good. So we'll be back with Red Sea Roundup right after this break.
Welcome back. This is Red Sea Roundup. I'm your host today, Pam Marvin, and joining me in the studio is our very own Trey Cashion.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I can't thank you enough for coming
Glad
in.
to be here.
It was really on my heart to do this in the month of February because
that's a perfect time to do that.
Yeah, we just had Valentine's Day, and I don't know, Trey. I think I want to start off a little bit with just kind of why this was on my heart, why the Holy Spirit put it on my heart, and
that'd help.
I remember when my kids first became teenagers. Now, my oldest one is 24 and is engaged, but when she was about 15 years old, I was just really praying and saying, Lord, the system the way it's going right now is broken. And if we were to build it exactly the way Christ intended it, what would it look like? And so I kind of want to have that. I don't want to talk about how to fix what's broken. I want to talk about the ideal, what we think God would have intended and for our families. And I'm sure there's, as our families are different, we'll have different styles and different ways. But I really want to talk about that today. But to have kind of a little launching pad, I want to quote the Catechism. Says, according to the Catechism, it is imperative to give suitable and timely instruction to young people, above all in the heart of their own families, about the dignity of married love, its role and its exercise, so that, having learned the value of chastity, they will be able at a suitable age to engage in honorable courtship and to enter upon a marriage of their own.
Yep.
And that is 1632. So
1632.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested to get your thoughts. I mean, I kind of have mine, but
there's a couple things there. One, that it really is. It's something Stephanie and I have always talked about. It needs to be ongoing. We always talk about how you can't really have a talk about dating or even sexuality, any of that, without kind of building a sacramental sense. So we always say, look, when they're young, they need to understand marriage is a sacrament, and that what sacraments are, and that sacraments are signs that actually make God present. I mean, God makes Himself present through those sacraments, and so this visible and invisible, that it's not that they're things they look ordinary, but they're really extraordinary. They're supernatural, even though they look natural. And so from a young age, with that being part of it, then when we get to when they're old enough and they start maybe being attracted to or to talk to them about it, that we can say, well, that a man and a woman in a romantic way, in a way like most people see, is meant to be a sign of God's presence in this world, not just a sign, but actually to make God present in a way to this world. And that's why we call it the mystery of parenthood, that we want them to catch a big vision of what it means to have someone who you desire to spend the rest of your life with. We not a multitude of people like that, but and that is something that is very important and way up here on the scale of important decisions to have. And it's not something you take lightly, nor is it something that you do. And that's something we always go back to when even today is that, it's a sacrament. Marriage is a sacrament. And that sign, that the sign of the sacrament is the marital union. And if that's the sign for it to be an accurate reflection of God's faithfulness, of his love, there's certain things that we would choose not to do that our yes would be so much more when we choose to do it.
Well, as just a parent, I still have a few at home, as you do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
What are the ages of your kids at home?
So the ones at home are 16, and then the triplets are 14.
Wow.
It's soon to be, in this summer, they'll be 17 and 3 15-year-olds.
That's crazy. So I have 11-year-old and a 13-year-old at home right now. I feel like I get a second chance. I had a 6-year gap. So I've learned some from the first few.
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the things I think is really important to let parents know, or what I highly encourage, is even before you get to this whole dating stuff, it's truly a discernment are you called to married life?
Right.
That is so important. So I think that's especially important with the middle schooler ages, because the things start to get a little crazy there. So wait. Are you called to married life? Have you talked to Jesus? And I think that's a really important phase. I know my second daughter, Mary, has been in a discernment process literally for the last 6 years. She's 21 now, but it seemed to happen right after confirmation, when she was about in 9th grade, that she really started trying to be very open to what God was calling her to. And she's actually flip-flopped back and forth several times.
Right.
Religious life, married life. Religious life, married life. Now that she's 21 and been really discerning this for quite some time, she feels like she is called to married life. But again, I want to encourage parents, don't assume. Don't assume.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we actually last week we talked about with the Daughters of St. Paul about discernment, and that to have our kids recognize it for all decisions, but particularly for decisions of that magnitude, because that is a choice. There really is, other than our choice for Jesus, other than our choice to accept what he's given to us in our salvation. Other than that, that vocation to married life or to religious life is the choice of a lifetime. It's not whether I'm going to be an attorney or a doctor or a banker or the housewife or whatever, a mother. A mother, yes, that would be at the top. But I mean, the bottom line is that we sometimes forget that the single largest choice, the vocation of vocations, is how am I going to spend my life? Yes.
And also to add in, it has generational consequences, that choice, especially of married life, that your children that come out of that marriage are going to have potentially children themselves, and they're going to have children. So the effects of your choice are going to cascade down through the ages, much farther beyond just yourself. Right,
and that's really how we have to see it, as something. It is. I mean, me being a banker or somebody being the impact is really relatively small in terms of the scope, as opposed to what's going to happen with how we raise our kids and and bring them up and help them recognize their acceptance of whatever God calls them to. But this constant conversation with God about what do you want me to do, trying to listen, learning how to listen is another foundational principle that you have to do. Yeah.
I think, it was very appropriate because the Holy Spirit works that way. Over the break, you heard the beautiful voice of Father Jonathan Raya. How do you say his last name? Raya. Okay. And saying that it's God knows your children better than you do, loves your children more than you do, and knows what's best for them more than you do. And the purpose of that is like, where are they going to be most fulfilled in life as far as loving goes?
Right.
Because a vocation to religious life, that kind of love is poured out on Christ, being most fulfilled. But I have to say, Mary and I had a really beautiful moment just here in this last year when she's been very honestly discerning religious life and married life. And I finally looked at her because I as a mom, after a while, you kind of get an idea about their vocation, but you don't want to come right out and say it. And I mean, you could, but it needs to be her decision. And I remember, you're going to laugh, I remembered a quote from The Sound of Music about what the Mother Superior says to Maria, just because you love a man doesn't mean you love God less. That was a stumbling block for her because she felt like, well, if I love God above all things, how can I have a vocation to married life? She had a conflict with that.
And that's why, that's why it's important to remember that the sacrament is holy matrimony because that is how you love God. God makes himself present in and through that sacrament. And so that is exactly how you love. And the other thing is that we've talked about this multiple times, but it's one of the things that's fascinating to me. I think that we miss God a lot because we're looking for him in places that he isn't, and we miss him because we're so familiar with him in the places that he is, like in your wife and in your children and in that. If you look through the Gospels, Jesus is always, the readings yesterday on the Last Judgment, Matthew 25. When you were hungry, you fed me. And both of them kind of missed him to a certain extent, but it was in actually either choosing to feed the hungry, who just look like hungry people, or choosing not to feed the hungry, which just look like hungry people. There was the opportunity to see Jesus. And so I think in the family, because again of this sacrament, there's an invisible reality that what's going on inside is something much greater than it looks like. It looks very ordinary from the outside, maybe even not so great ordinary. Sometimes, but it is in and through the people that we meet, and particularly the families in which we live, that God is making himself present. So how do we love God best? You love your wife. How do you love your husband? How do you love your brother? You love your sister. That's where it's learned in that. Even though that still just looks like your husband, still just looks like my wife, still just looks like a brother and a sister. Maybe I don't like them today because of whatever, but there's Jesus right there.
Right, which I have to tell I do a little sidebar story to kind of, brag on Trey a little bit or tell him an impression he made on me. Because I say thanks to God for this as your example. This has been a few years back. We bump into each other a lot over at Thomas Aquinas outside the chapel and Mass. But speaking of seeing God in others, I was speaking to Trey and he was very present to me. And you could tell he was very focused on seeing Jesus in me. And I was really touched at that particular moment. This has been years ago, Trey. But I want to say thank you for that because that's not just something that comes natural. It's a worked on and learned type of presence for people. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I wish I could say that's my normal mode of operation. So maybe that was a grace moment. But because I don't. And I do see myself sometimes missing the person in front. They always say that, like Mother Teresa, Blessed Mother Teresa was so present to people that didn't matter who, whether it was the poorest of the poor or a president, she was so zoned in, and that the person knew she's listening to me and me only. And I think it is something you have to work on. You have to actively do. I know you caught me on a good day I'm happy that that did. But I think all of us need to actively recognize that it's the people we meet day to day where we're asked to be Jesus to others. I mean, we say a prayer. I don't know. It's just been one that from the kids were little, Lord, today help me to be Jesus to others, and then grant me the grace to see Jesus in others. Just as simple as that. And that's, I think that's the trick of living, because we look for all the really fancy stuff and all that, and really life happens most of the time in the very ordinary, the person you bump into, the things you're involved in, and there's Jesus. And again, that does get back to that's what really everything, but dating is going to be kind of like that. I mean, you got to recognize that there is a person there. God has a plan. Another thing you got to tell your kids is God has a plan for your life. And so he is speaking to you, and he wants you to follow it. And if you follow it, that is going to bring you the greatest joy and happiness, because he knows better than I do. And then my mother used to always tell Stephanie and me that you kind of mentioned this. Our children are not our own. We are stewards of God's children, of them. They're entrusted to us. I think it was St. Robert Bellarmine. I have the quote written somewhere, but that parent, basically he was talking about how parents will be asked in much the way at judgment, what did you do? Did you just bury my kid, the children I gave you, or what did you produce? What did you produce? What fruit came from them? So basically, the parable of the talents is what was tied to what parents are supposed to do. We're supposed to take our children and help them grow and become what God, and be open to what God has, and encourage them and point them in the directions that they might need to go, and then also be open to the fact that what we think they might not be what God wants, because I think some parents to turn that over and recognize that they're not ours anyway.
Exactly. I had the honor, I had a long drive back from Dallas yesterday, so I listened to Father Ryan's homily from yesterday, and it was about the gaze of love, and that is what we're talking about here in the context of just person to person, seeing Jesus in others and letting Jesus gaze upon you. But we, in a dating relationship, and what is, your gaze going to be? Is it focused on Christ? Will it be focused on the matrimonial sacrament? So I think, again, I want to just kind of share with you the way I've, and Thaddeus too, just kind of what's evolved in the Marvin household, and then get your expertise on it. But like I say, discernment has always been a really big process, especially of religious life for my second. Now, my son was always, Mom, I don't think, no, I'm not called to religious life. He's just kind of known that wasn't it. Although one of his best friends, I'm so thankful, Jake Blazik, which he's really touched my life, because one of Jake's, he kind of knew he was called to priesthood because he had a girlfriend in high school, and it wasn't great. And then after that was ended, he had an extreme sense of relief that he could completely and entirely focus on Christ then. And that relief is what gave him to know he had a calling to the priesthood, because he felt that the relationship was more of a barrier to loving Christ. So I think that's kind of beautiful to know, just for people who have kids that may be discerning that. It's like, you are so free to love in the best way you know how. And there are impediments to it one way or the other. And so you have to be very open to that. So I have to say, so different between the boys and the girls.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Amazing. Okay, so I have 4 girls and only 1 boy. And I have to say, I kind of learned on the first 2. I didn't know what I was doing. It was still really new.
Like I said, we always say we're not experts, we're just veterans.
No.
Right? I mean that's because it is. I mean, you kind of learn on the go. The good news is children are resilient, and despite our shortcomings, but we can learn for sure on things. But go ahead.
No. For my first thing was you date to mate. That was my main focus to start off with. When I really had that prayer time with Jesus, going, what do you want me to do? I got so nervous when my kids were getting that age to date. I'm like, because I knew the way the culture does it, broken.
Right.
But we are in a broken world. So you want the very best for your child. You want their discernment to be a longer process. If God doesn't rush.
Right.
He's very prudent in the way he allows things to unfold. And I think that's a very important lesson for all of us when it comes to anything in our lives. So with the girls, I kind of said you date to mate, but time my son came up, so he was my third. And I can remember a very, very wonderful moment I got to have with him. And he actually listened, Trey. They do listen. Like you say, they listen more than you realize. They really do. Yeah. So my son, he was a freshman in high school. And he really, really liked this girl, wanted to be boyfriend, girlfriend. And he asked my opinion. That's still very stunning to me that he would do that. So he asked my opinion, what do you think about this? And I said, honey, I think it's great. I think she's a really cool young lady. She's really awesome. But I want to tell you two things as you're thinking about this. First of all, I believe you date to mate. Are you ready to get married now? Of course, he's 16. He's like, no, I'm not ready to get married. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so let's think of it. What would God want for you at this age and this time of your life? And I said, another thing you really need to remember is your brain is wired a lot differently than a young lady's. It's way more serious for her than it is for you. For you, it's a friendship and it's enjoyable. But a young lady, they're wired a lot differently and it's a lot more serious. And at the age, and I think, especially middle school, 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe 17 is kind of a turning point. This has just been from my personal experience, folks, and I am not an expert. Right. The emotional maturity is not at a strength yet to handle that kind of boyfriend-girlfriend like you see in the culture. It can really mess with interior self-image and development. And I've seen it firsthand. So I said, you don't have an idea of what this could do to her if you decide to go into a relationship. So this is what I told him. I said, this is what I suggest. Be her friend. Y'all can hang out all you want. You can go do things together as friends and spend time together, everything. I said, everything like a boyfriend and girlfriend would do except for two things. There's no showing of affection and there's no, will you be my girlfriend? Just those two things. Just none of those two things. Just develop that friendship. And he actually listened to me. He did. I was dumbfounded. And they continue to have a nice friendship today because after a while, it just kind of faded away and he went to a different school and whatnot. And then he didn't really enter into a real boyfriend-girlfriend relationship till he was 17, which I thought was really healthy. But it was his choice and his mindset because I told him I didn't think young ladies can process it that way. I mean, everyone is different. But I think a really good kind of 17 is a really good, where they're more emotionally mature to process things on an intellectual level instead of so emotional. Right. But when they're younger like that, it's just a tender formation time, and it can do some interior difficulty. And as a person who, and I don't often talk about this, as a spiritual guide working with women, I can see the effects in women over time when things were kind of broken back in the day, myself included. So that's kind of a way it's been. And now with my preteen and teenager in the house, I love it. She goes around talking to her friends about that boyfriend stuff. Y'all need to get over that. Just be their friends. They can't make it. You're talking about these 13, 14-year-old young men who are really girl crazy and all that. And it's just a lot of drama. And that's what she says. It's just a lot of drama, Mom.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what we've done. It's funny. We a couple things from what you said. We have done the same thing with our children. To this day, they joke about with their friends about they're in the eighth graders about the same thing. I mean, why are you dating somebody? And so we've kind of gone through that. We under the guidance and because of the suggestion of somebody we respect, my daughter, and this is the point you made, you want your kids to come to you with questions. So that's, again, a culture that's built at home from the time they're little. So when they get older, whatever you do, you want to build a culture where they can always come to you. They can always talk to you because that's what you want. Like your son came to you. You want your young people to do that. That is critical. My oldest daughter came to us young, and she said, there's this boy that wants wants to ask me out, of course, where are y'all going? And you know, learning the terms. I mean, I was really asking that, like, to go where? I mean, and no, to go out. I'm like, yeah, where? And just the language is even different today. And at first, you know, she said, I want your permission. I want to, and we talked through it, and it was probably both simultaneously the best and the worst decision that we made. We went and sought guidance, and I think we got good advice, but it was harder. So sometimes you can say yes to that with certain framework. We wanted her to be friends. We said you can spend time, but never alone. All that type of stuff. Never on dates by themselves. Always, if it's going to be, it'll be at our house or those type of things. But it was Father David we had asked, and he had talked about, you know, you can say no, just flat out no, and let her do it. And he said, but you know, that you put that cross on her by yourself at that point. Or you can say yes and stay involved and help carry the cross with her. And again, the good news about that is that we did do that, and we've always kept that relationship is built from that. The better news from it is that it ended like most of them do, because I told her from the beginning, look, you know, if this goes too far, it's going to end the way most of them, the way my high school relationships ended. Not good. And somebody's going to be hurt.
Yeah,
probably
I'm going to jump in real quick and quote Jason Everett, who said, dating in high school doesn't teach you how to stay together. It teaches you how to break up. No
question. And that's what we talked about. But so the better news is that she was a perfect person to do that with. There were some tough times, but it ended up breaking up. But now the kids see, and we can, with her help, can use that. And so it was a cross we carried with her. You know, I always go back and say, what should I have said? Should we just said no? I don't know. I feel good about it because of where Madison is today. And I feel good about it from the standpoint that our kids always look to that and go, yeah, see, that's not a not a good thing. But it is to help kids learn that it is for marriage, and it is to mate, and it is to move towards that relationship. And so you need to look at where you are. Are you ready? Physically, financially, emotionally, right. And is there somebody there to do that? And it's really important to remember that. Yeah.
One thing I would like to add is that even though you look back on that decision and you wonder, was it the best or not the best? And in various decisions we all make as a parent, I think the important thing is that you walk through that with your daughter, and you work that, even if we make not always the right decisions regarding whatever it might be, and not just the dating topic, but any of these topics. If we mess up, then we apologize and we say, hey, we learned together. If we have a success, we don't say, hey, we're the best parents in the world. Like you said, we're veterans, we're not experts. Yeah, right. So it's a matter of, as a parent, our duty is to walk through everything in life with our kids.
Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite terms to use, because I'm a big sports fan, Trey, I think you know that.
Me too. Yeah.
Big sports is coaching.
Yeah.
We are coaching our kids. And so it is walking next to them in this life. And I think one of the parents miss the mark when they don't engage intellectually. Why do we believe the way that we believe? What are the results if you just the whole blind, no, just do it this way is ineffective, folks.
No, it's funny because we actually, the 7 secrets of purposeful parenthood, which is what we were talking about there. One of them is parents coach. That's one of the secrets. And the reason that I think it's important is you got to walk with them. You got to show them. You might even have to give them the words at different times in their life. Like, how do you handle this? You might even role play on, okay, so if so-and-so says this, and then you go back. But coaching is, what I love about that image is you coach them kind of behind the scenes on the sidelines in practice, but then you send them out there, and the coaches aren't out there with them.
Exactly.
And then you gather information from them as they come back about this, the football game, how to go, how would you have done this? And then you coach them a little bit more and you put them back out there. You're preparing them to go out. And we always have said that you have to understand why you're telling them yes or no. If you can't communicate that, then you'll never ever get them to buy into it. You have to walk through, why is this important and what is my thought process? Because what you want them to do is to be able to begin to think the way you think, and hopefully you're thinking the way God thinks.
Yes, and critical thinking skill. Absolutely.
And the moral reason why is so imperative. And so many parents have been raised in settings where, it's no because I said no, and which we said it's fine to say no because I said so, but you can't leave it at that.
Right.
I mean, if a kid's playing in the street, you can say no because I said so, get out now.
Right.
But you probably want to discuss why that would be a problem after they've been removed from the street.
Right, exactly.
I mean, so, and be able to engage them over time in a conversation. We've always talked about, sometimes you say, well, why do you think that we would think that might not be a good idea, or that would be a good idea? To get them to start to show us, how are they thinking? Because it's important for them to know we're a body-soul relationship. It's not just what we do. One of our best friends growing up was a young lady, and her dad was the strictest I've ever seen. I mean, he would not allow her to do anything. I mean, nothing. You won't date, you won't do anything, but there was just no. Well, she was pregnant 6 months after she left home, because he always said, you can do whatever you want after you leave here. And, that's the extreme. But what that is we're not, she was never taught to think. She was never taught why. She was just told no. And she, being the obedient daughter, said, okay, I'll just do no.
Right.
The other thing is that teaches us as signs to parents. We're meant to be signs of God to our kids. God has a reason why for all of the stuff.
Absolutely.
And the church has a reason why for all of the stuff. So we as parents need to show them that rules, and tell them that rules are not there to limit you. Right. They're actually there to help you become who you're meant to be. Absolutely.
I'm so glad you went there, because as a person who converted about 25 years ago to the Catholic faith, I came from almost no background, and that the intellectual honesty about why do we believe the way we believe? I'm a reader too, so that's one of the things I just kept falling more and more in love with the Catholic faith, because if I really had a question, I could go somewhere, and never did I ever find because we said so. Right. I said, no, this is the thought. This is thousands of years of thought as to why we believe the way we believe. I remember I actually read Humani Vitae, because back in the early 80s, I was like, well, what's this all about? Why does the church believe what it believes about contraception? And so I read the document and went, oh my word, very, very live. So again, I love that you made the analogy with parenting and being that questioning and saying there are reasons behind it. Same with our faith.
And one of my favorite things to do with the kids, and particularly when they start to question, I said, listen, you should, because I know that I believe the truth, and Jesus is the truth. I every time you ask why or a question, if you're honest in asking that question, you are always going to end up eventually at Jesus. You may not see it initially. So I'm not ever afraid of you asking why. What I'm afraid of you doing is asking why, thinking you already know the answer, as opposed to being honest with yourself and saying, look, I can ask why. So I say, look, ask why, ask what, ask any question you want. And here's my confidence level. Even if you stray, if you're honest with yourself and saying, I really want to know the answer, you will end up at Jesus, promise. And you will end up at the Catholic Church, promise. The only way you don't end up there is what a lot of people do, is ask why, when really the answer, they're not looking for the answer. They're asking why only to put it back and then say, I don't really want the answer. I just want to have to make you come up with the answer.
Yeah, it's like I want to do it my way kind of thing.
Right.
I think I know
so you've
better.
heard kids, as parents, you've heard kids ask why, and they're actually asking why. And you've heard kids ask why, and they're actually saying no. There's a difference, and you can tell. And one of the biggest, ones from conversations with one of my boys that I ever had was, he was challenging me, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And I said, listen, the question is not how do I know? I know. I know what I believe. I said, the real question is, what do you know, and why do you know?
Why do you believe it?
Why do you believe it, or why do you not believe it?
Mm-hmm.
But you need to start asking those questions, because you can't take my faith and my knowledge with you. Okay, all you can take is parts of it, but it has to become you. And sometimes if you turn it around on them, I think a lot of us, be Catholic. You come to church, and do all that stuff, and you kind of ride them through, and you see lots of people, I think, that go off, but they may still go off anyway when they leave for college. But the bottom line is, if you've engaged them in a way of saying, look, I'm going to help you search. I'll give you my experience, the times I've messed up, but that Jesus is who he says he is. But that has to become yours at some point.
Exactly.
And the right way of thinking has to become yours at some point. And the ability to use freedom wisely has to become yours at some point. My job is not to rein you in and keep you in a box. My job is to actually prepare you to go out into this world and be somebody.
That's so true. I think one of the, I can, with a fair amount of confidence, say one of the best techniques. I mean, we're talking about it right now. I quite stumbled on it by accident, just given my temperament and personality, that, again, engaging their intellect about why do you think this? So instead of telling them the probing questions, again, like, why do you think this? And this is what we think about dating and how it should be done. So now let me ask you, with your ones in your home now, what do you say? What's the thought process?
Very similar things. Is the thing that dating has a purpose, and that purpose is to move towards marriage. So we have always encouraged them to say, it's very similar to yours. We've always encouraged them, look, you need to learn how to deal with young ladies as a boy. You need to learn what you like about them, what you don't. You need to learn how to do that. How do you do that? Well, you spend in groups, you're friends with. We always say, if you have some boys, come over to our house, and that's another thing, bring them into your practice facility. Right?
Yeah, that's right. I love the coaching analogies.
That you're there and that you can see, and always reminding, boys. I mean, my oldest boy, it just became he's 21. Found a girl that he likes, and I remember still saying this, because I've always done this with boys, particularly. He was doing something. I said, just treat her like a lady, Trevor. I mean, still at 20, I treat her like a lady. Always remember that. I mean, and so you raise them from boys' standpoint. I always say you've got to raise them to be, you're a protector of women. You're somebody who protects them. That there are people out there that would like to do harm with words, with whatever. Your job is to protect them. And for ladies, your job is to, I mean, I'm not as good at this, but with my daughter, I mean, for me, it's always been, I tell her, and I've told both of them, the boy you marry, if you're called to marriage, needs to be better than me. Needs to love you for you like I loved you for you, except more. And you'll know that either way. And for them to know that we're the example. So if I'm a good dad, I'm showing my daughter what somebody who cares about them does, which sometimes means challenging them. But also sometimes means protecting them. Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about the young men, because, of course, I have just my 21-year-old to go by. And in the culture right now, being so very broken, what you see is the young men of, say, in their early 20s to mid 20s are not really thinking about getting married.
Yeah.
That's really, in our culture, that's kind of lost. There's been too much freedom for lots of reasons. And it's really sad. So I want to say with the gentleman, I read a really great article about the saying to the young men, be serious about this. You know, if you don't think she's the one, don't stay and date just for recreation. It's a discernment process.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, we have had conversations, particularly with the oldest, but don't waste your time or theirs. I mean, if you know, and there, you can know. I mean, I remember dating girls in college and then going, this is not going anywhere, and then stopping that. I mean, because I don't know if it was just me or my age. I mean, I remember thinking, if at this point, if this is not going for it, if I don't see this, I'm not wasting time, because I'm wasting her time too. I mean, it's not just about me. It's that's not fair to her.
Well, I want to jump in real quick and say one of the things, because I'm going to say something very countercultural. This is just something that's sprung up that I've seen over the last several years, and I'm okay with it. And that is a young couple who have really discerned marriage. They discern they're the ones, and they decide to get married at 20, 21 years old. You know what I say? Go for it. Because they're trying to maintain a very chaste lifestyle. And after many years, say they met in high school, but they know they're the one, they decide to get married in college because they want to stay true to their faith and their values. You know what I say? Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, one of the words that's important to remember. Chastity is for married people too. Chastity is just the proper use of sexuality given your state in life. And so we don't stop being chaste when we become married. That's what that's important to remember. It's just the proper use of sexuality. So when I'm married, there's a proper use. When I'm not married, there's a proper use. But I do think it's really important to encourage our kids to be open to being married younger, not because of anything other than there's some idea that like somehow you're going to find yourself or do whatever going down the road if I don't get married, or even if I do get married, let's postpone having kids. There's no way to find or grow if God should gift you with a child more than having a child and trying to raise them together.
That's right. So we're here coming to the end of the show because I knew it would go by so quickly.
Right.
Let's bottom line it for our listeners. How would you bottom line it for the dating or
just do not. I mean, I would just say do not succumb to everybody's doing it mentality. I mean, be willing
be thoughtful.
Be thoughtful and be purposeful and engage your children in the conversation.
That's right.
Include them in your thought process. Please don't just say no just because it's the right thing. No may be the right thing. But think through why.
Exactly.
And date to mate, or it's to be married, then you need to learn what girls are like or what boys are like and how to interact with them in a non-silly way. And the worst way to do that is to get in a situation that you can't get there.
There's one thing that we haven't said about dating, and I think this is so very true. You need, as a young person and to parents, to teach our kids, fall in love with Jesus first.
Absolutely.
Really develop that close relationship, and he will guide you in all the right ways. So that's the first relationships. Don't jump ahead and try and have a boyfriend, girlfriend before you've really fallen in love with Jesus.
Jason Everett, on one of his things, and I know we got to go, is it says for the women, find your bridesmaids first too. So fall in love with Jesus. So Jesus first, then your friends.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to help guide you too as well.
Yes, that's wonderful. Well, how much time we have, guys? Okay, well, this is wrapping up the show. Do we go into the bumper or no? Okay. Well, I want to thank Trey so much. We could talk about another hour, this kind of stuff. So thank you so much. I'm so glad you could be with me today. But I want to just say, thanks for joining us, and for Trey for stopping by. I hope you will tune in the next third Tuesday of the month when I'll be visiting with Patty Blazek on Never Too Late to Show Mercy. Until then, when choosing between the values of heaven and the world, always round up.